So, what happens when a person is faced with something so overwhelming, so terrifying, that it just completely shatters their sense of safety? How does the human personality cope with that? What does it do to survive? Today, we're going to dive into a really profound theory about how the mind endures the unendurable, based on the book The Haunted Self. It's a concept called structural dissociation, and what it reveals is this hidden and honestly pretty brilliant survival strategy. This quote from Marilyn Vanderberg, who is a former Miss America and a survivor of childhood abuse, just captures the core feeling perfectly. This isn't just about having some bad memories. It's about a fundamental split inside the self. You've got the day child, the one who lives life, and then you have the night child, the one who holds the trauma. Two separate worlds. So, that's the big question we're tackling today, right? How does this even happen? Why would the personality divide itself into these separate worlds? And what does that actually mean for the person who's living it every single day? Okay, first things first, and this is probably the most important thing to grasp. This division is not a defect. It's not a sign of weakness at all. It is a highly sophisticated, even if it's a desperate, survival strategy. The mind is doing exactly what it has to do to protect the person. The logic behind this is actually incredibly practical when you think about it. Imagine you're trying to run a business while the building is on fire. You literally can't do both of those things at the same time. It's impossible. So the personality splits the jobs. One part of you keeps the business of life running, going to work, paying the bills, seeing your friends, and another part is completely dedicated to dealing with the fire, the threat, the terror, the survival actions. So this division creates what the theory calls different parts of the personality. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about different people, but distinct, separate systems inside one person, each with a very specific and often conflicting job to do. So let's meet the two main players in this story. All right, so who are these players? First up is the part that takes on the incredible task of simply living life, day in and day out. This is called the apparently normal part, or ANP for short. You can think of this as the front office of the personality. Its main job is to appear normal, to function, to keep everything moving forward, and most importantly, to keep the trauma sealed away so that daily life is even possible. Now, when you look at all of these jobs, they have one primary directive in common: avoidance. The ANP's entire operating system is designed to manage the present by actively and exhaustively pushing away the past. This is the part that goes on dates, gets promotions, raises kids, all while spending a massive amount of energy just keeping that other world from breaking through. And this quote from a survivor named Margaret just illustrates the ANP's core dilemma perfectly. The it she's referring to is thinking about the trauma. For the ANP, engaging with the trauma and living a normal life, well, they feel completely, fundamentally, mutually exclusive. You can do one or you can do the other, but you can't do both. But if the ANP is constantly avoiding the trauma, where does it all go? This brings us to the second and much more hidden part of the personality. This is the emotional part, or the EP. And if the ANP is the front office, you can think of the EP as the building's security system, one that's permanently stuck on the highest alert. See, it isn't remembering the trauma, it is fixated in it. It's holding all the raw emotions, all the physical sensations, and all the survival instincts from that time. And here's the most critical feature of the EP: its relationship with time. For this part of the personality, the trauma isn't over. It is always happening right now. So when the EP breaks through into the ANP's daily life, it's not a memory popping up. It's the raw, unprocessed experience of terror, or rage, or helplessness, bursting into the present moment. This difference in memory is really the key to understanding this entire theory. The ANP, it holds the narrative memory. A verbal story about what happened. Something like a bad thing happened to me in my childhood. But the EP holds the traumatic memory. That's the raw, physical, sensory experience. The sights, the sounds, the smells, the racing heart, the impulse to run or to fight. It's not a story at all. It's a full-body re-experiencing that is triggered, not recalled. This quote from an Auschwitz survivor, it's just harrowing, but it gives a voice to the EP's reality. It's not about remembering pain. It is about feeling that exact same pain all over again, physically, to the point where it feels like you're dying. This is the world that the ANP is so desperately trying to avoid. So here we are. We have these two parts, created for survival, but now they're locked in this desperate internal conflict. So what does healing even look like in a situation like this? How do you possibly begin to repair a personality that has been split for its own protection? Well, to understand healing, we first have to figure out what's keeping the division in place. I mean, if these parts were created together to survive, why do they so often act like enemies? What are the walls that are keeping the day child and the night child so far apart? The answer really is fear. The theory suggests that a series of trauma-related phobias develop over time. The ANP becomes phobic, genuinely terrified of the EP's memories and feelings because they're just too overwhelming. But it goes even deeper. The parts become phobic of each other. The ANP sees the EP as a threat to its normal life, and the EP might see the ANP as naive or maybe even uncaring. These phobias become the very walls that keep them separated. And this reframes the entire goal of what it means to heal. It's not about trying to destroy or get rid of the EP. You can't do that anyway. That part holds crucial survival knowledge. Instead, healing is about something else. It's about carefully and safely helping these parts lower those walls of fear and just begin to communicate. This is what we call integration. And integration isn't about one part conquering the other one. It's about teamwork. It's the slow, steady process of the ANP learning to tolerate the EP's experiences and the EP learning that the trauma really is over and that the ANP has skills for living in the present. It's about them learning to work together as a whole. And this is the ultimate goal, for that separation between the day child and the night child to finally dissolve, for the entire person to be able to own all of their life, the good and the terrible, under one unified sense of self. To be able to say, with no more division, this is all mine, this is my experience, this is my feeling, my body, this is my history. So we're left with this really profound thought that challenges how we think about healing. So often we're told to just get over the past or forget it. But this theory suggests a very different path. Maybe healing isn't about erasing the past at all, but about building a self that is finally strong enough and whole enough to hold it.